on in. Come on in, come on in. Let me close the doors behind you. You're gonna have to check out these doors because they're kind of amazing. Very old school. Check that out. Okay, so here we are. Welcome to my new home. I'm very excited, and this is our first video about this restoration and remodeling or redecorating or whatever you want to call it. So this house was built in 1807, and our current home, where we've lived for almost 20 years, is literally right down the street and around the corner. So this house has been here for the whole 20 years. I mean, obviously it's been here for 200 and something years, but we knew it was always here, but we could never really see it because it was surrounded by woods and trees and no trespassing signs, and there were 26 acres to this property. So over the years, this original property has been owned by the same family for like 120 years. So you might want to back up over here so you can kind of see some of the architecture in here because it's really kind of amazing. So there's been some things happen over time, but the great thing about this home is the character has been preserved all along. And the last time they remodeled was in 1939, and everything has stayed exactly the same. The mechanics have not been hardly even updated, so we're having to rip out the plumbing and start over there. But a lot of the house is extremely well preserved. You're gonna see a lot of original wallpaper from 1939. There may have been a few after that, but we're not quite sure about that. But prior to that, this was a home that encompassed 650 acres total. And so over the years, as you can imagine, as Nashville has grown and the family was no longer able to take care of all of that, they sold it off bit by bit. So now we're down to the last 3.5 acres here that is preserved. This is on the National Historic Registry, and that means that this house cannot be torn down or altered without permission of the Historic Committee. And so the surrounding area, we have a new neighborhood that has grown up in this area, but we still have 3.5 acres all to ourselves. And this is the last remnant of this property. So I'm so excited, so honored to get to be the caretaker of it for the next however many years. So first of all, I want you to take a look at this fabulous entry, this 2-story entry. We have some original wallpaper. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit of water damage in different places here, and we are going to replace that, and I'm going to show you a little bit later on what we're going to use in here. But for the most part, all this is going to be preserved. We're going to do some fresh paint colors and some updated wallpaper. No, not updated, new wallpaper, but it's going to definitely have the historical, appropriate historical nod to what was here before. So come on, let me bring you into the front parlor. Okay, so I love this room. So many of these rooms have these large windows on either side, so we have lots of natural light. We have a total of 7 fireplaces inside this home, and then there's an additional cabin property in the back where we have another fireplace, so a total of 8. So today was spent with the chimney inspectors, and they've given us the good and bad news of what needs to be fixed and repaired for us to be able to make these operational, which we'll talk about that at a later date. But anyway, so this is a beautiful fireplace. These built-ins are fabulous. This wallpaper is one of my favorites in the entire house, and it's just very lovely. It's very much the colors that I have in my other home, which what I was trying to say earlier is this property is super close to where we live now. Our home is like the cottage in the hamlet to this manor, okay? So we're going really from a cottage to a manor house. Our house was built in 1939. This house was completely remodeled in 1939. So that's kind of like that little connection there. But the colors in this wallpaper are very similar to what we use in our home down the way. So if you turn around, you can kind of see the whole thing. I want you to get a gander at these doors. They're like stinking huge. None of the doors are exactly the same size, but they're extra large. They all have their own lock. The closets, all of them have separate keys. So none of the keys are the same, which is kind of crazy. So we have about 40 keys that we have to figure out and keep up with where those keys belong. But anyway, the doors are great. You can see the molding here. And I want you to take a look at how thick these walls are. Look at that. Super thick walls. This entire portion of the house is masonry all the way through. So we've got super thick walls, brick on the other side. You know, the insulation is not like it is in today's homes, but that's something we'll probably learn about a lot more as we actually get in here and live. But come back into the entry. This is one of my favorite details, is the scroll work here. And then if you swoop back over here towards the door at the top, I know the light's shining through, but that transom window, oh my gosh, I love that so much. It's really beautiful. And then we've got back here a short door, you can see one of the keys, that leads out onto one of the porches, and we'll show you those later. And then we have a half bath here, that again was done in 1939. I'm gonna take a look at that. Because we're having the water, all the plumbing redone, we're probably gonna end up losing this wallpaper. But we'll replace it with something equally cool. The flooring here is linoleum that was put in 1939. This is the one linoleum floor that we're going to preserve because it's really pretty cool. The others we are going to replace. They all have asbestos under them. So yesterday we had a team of people here who completely came in and abated the asbestos. And if you don't know anything about that, asbestos is a product that was used in insulation, in glue, underneath linoleum, in ceiling tiles, and all kinds of things. The problem with asbestos is it can get in the lungs once it goes airborne and cause cancer. So that's not good. But the good news is if you don't disturb it, it's fine. So that floor, as long as we don't stick a hole in the floor or pull that up, it's completely fine. But in the other bathrooms, we're having to put plumbing and put some holes in the floor. So as soon as that gets disturbed, you have to address it. So we've taken care of the asbestos upstairs, and also there was asbestos insulation around all of the water pipes. So that's taken care of. That was yesterday. Chimney inspections today, and let's see, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow I've got a painter coming out, and he's going to price out all this trim that I'm choosing colors for today. So you might want to look up the stairs before we move into the library. Get a good look at this handrail. This is amazing. The architecture here is federal style. There's been some of this later. I'm not exactly sure, but some of this detailing may have been changed at some point. But this is original, very typical, simple federal style, and there are some other examples of this in Nashville that I've seen. So now we're going to come into the library.